All right, today we're going to go on a pretty wild scientific journey, deep inside the human brain. We're going to track how one tiny little molecule can kick off a chain reaction that completely reshapes our conscious mind. So let's dive right in.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're starting super small, down at the chemical level. Then we'll see how those chemicals literally shake hands with our brain's receptors. From there, we'll see how individual brain cells react, how that rewires the entire brain, and finally, we'll look at the big picture theories, trying to make sense of the whole experience.
You know, to really get a handle on the experience, we have to start at the very beginning, at the molecular level. Think of these compounds as these incredibly specific chemical keys, right? And each one is designed to fit a very particular lock in our brain to unlock something profound.
What's so amazing is that all the classic psychedelics, even though they feel different, are all built around a common chemical skeleton. It's called a pharmacophore, and that's the essential non-negotiable part of the molecule that makes the magic happen.
Now check this out. It's like a chemical family tree. That basic pharmacophore we just mentioned, it acts like a common ancestor. And from it, you get two main branches. Over on the left, you've got the tryptamines. This family includes psilocybin, which is what's in magic mushrooms. And on the right, you have the phenethylamines, like mescaline from the peyote cactus.
And this is just brilliant, because it shows why LSD is so unique. It's not just in one family or the other. It's a hybrid. It literally contains key pieces from both the tryptamine and the phenylamphetamine structures. This wild combination helps explain its incredible potency, and it was a huge light bulb moment for scientists, showing them they could basically build new molecules with new effects.
So we have our molecular keys. The next question is obvious, right? What happens when these keys actually find their specific locks in the brain?
After decades of research, everything from human brain scans to studies on mice, the evidence is it's overwhelming. It all points to one primary target. It's a very specific type of serotonin receptor called the 5-HT2A receptor. This is the main lock that psychedelic key is designed to fit.
So, what happens when the key turns in the lock? This diagram shows it perfectly. The psychedelic molecule, scientists call it an agonist because it flips a switch, it binds to that 5-HT2A receptor. It's like ringing a doorbell. That single push sets off a whole chain reaction of signals that ripple inside the brain cell.
And get this, because of some absolutely incredible new imaging technology, we can now see the stunning, complex, three-dimensional shape of this receptor. This is a total game changer. It gives scientists a high-tech blueprint to see exactly how these molecules fit, and even to design new ones.
Okay, so the doorbell's been rung. The signal is spreading inside the cell. But what does that actually change about what the neuron does? Let's take a look at a few different spots in the brain to see what happens.
Up in the prefrontal cortex, which is kind of like the brain's CEO, the effects are just massive. Psychedelics trigger something called structural plasticity. It sounds complicated, but it just means the brain is physically rewiring itself. You can see it right here. It literally grows new dendritic spines. Think of them like new little branches on a tree, creating new ways for neurons to connect. And the amazing part? These new connections can actually last for a month.
Okay, now let's jump over to the visual system. This graph shows that the neurons there get worse at filtering out stuff in the background. Normally, your brain is great at ignoring what's in your peripheral vision so you can focus. But psychedelics weaken this surround suppression, and that might be a huge reason for all the visual distortions and patterns people see.
And then way down in the brainstem, in a spot called the dorsal raphe, something totally different happens. This is one of the main serotonin factories in the brain. And as this graph makes super clear, almost immediately after psychedelic is introduced, the activity in these serotonin-making neurons just plummets. It's a near-complete shutdown. So these little changes in single neurons are fascinating, but it's like looking at one musician in an orchestra. Now let's zoom out and listen to the whole symphony. How do all these small effects change the conversation across the entire brain? This is where things get truly wild. Psychedelics cause this massive shift in who's talking to whom. On one side, they quiet down the normal chatter within our established brain networks, like the default mode network. You can think of that network as your brain's ego or its autopilot. It's what's running when you're just thinking about yourself. But while that gets quieter, they crank the volume way up on conversations between networks that don't usually talk, especially our sensory networks.
And it seems like a key player here is the thalamus. The thalamus is basically the brain's central relay station for all our senses.
Under the influence of a psychedelic, it's like the gates just swing wide open. It starts sending way more sensory information up to the rest of the brain, information that it would normally filter out.
Okay, so we've got changes happening at the molecular level, the cellular level, and the whole brain network level. The last piece of the puzzle is, how do scientists tie all of this together to actually explain the subjective psychedelic experience?
And this brings us to the biggest question of all, right? We can see all these biological changes happening, but what's the theory that bridges that gap? How do you get from molecules and neurons to a profound consciousness-altering state?
Well, there are a few leading theories trying to connect the dots. One, for example, focuses on that thalamic gatekeeper we talked about, basically saying the floodgates are thrown open. Another really powerful model, called the rebus theory, suggests that our brain's rigid, top-down beliefs about how the world should be just relax, and that lets us experience reality from the bottom up, taking in all this raw sensory data that we normally ignore. It's almost like hitting a reset button on your perception.
And this all leads to a final, really provocative question that scientists are debating right now. We know these substances can have real, lasting therapeutic benefits, but is the intense, subjective, mind-bending trip necessary for those benefits? Or could we someday design a molecule that gives you all the neural rewiring and healing without the trip itself? Answering that is really the next frontier in psychedelic science.